This is Defenders TV Podcast episode 107, where we're looking at Spider-Man Homecoming. What's up, fellow Defenders and webheads? This is Defenders TV Podcast 107. Can you imagine 107? And it has all been culminating in what I can only say is our spoiler-filled, oh-so-good discussion about Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man is here. He is in the MCU. It is official. And we've seen it, and we're going to talk about it. I'm one of your hosts, Chris.
Hi, I'm one of your other hosts, John.
And I'm your last and final defender, Derek. We're in a lot better mood tonight, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I already feel it. I already feel that this movie is probably going to get a better rating than Spider-Man 3.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. We have a local hero for local people.
We're almost like a friendly neighbourhood.
Local person for local people.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah, I'm really looking forward to discussing Spider-Man Homecoming. It was so difficult not to talk about it when we were doing our Spider-Man 3 review, because it felt like every time I wanted to say something I was going, at least they do it better in Spider-Man Homecoming. But we didn't. We avoided it.
Well, that is true. That is true.
But unfortunately, we did not avoid having to rewatch that film.
That's true.
Absolutely. And if any of the listeners are wondering what the crash bang wallop is at the end of our opening theme tune, that is Spider-Man falling off a building.
Well, actually, we now know it's Spider-Man trying to swing on a web and falling to the ground.
Exactly.
There you go.
There you go.
He's falling and hitting the ground.
So, for all of our long-time listeners, welcome back. Thank you so much. But if you are new, if you just come here for Spider-Man and wondering what all this is about, we are Defenders TV Podcast. We are the number one in our minds podcast for all things, but actually predominantly the Defenders, which is your Daredevils, your Luke Cages, your Iron Fist, and your Jessica Jones, and all culminating in August with the Defenders, which is part of all the Marvel Netflix cinematic universe. Question mark, potentially part of MCU.
No, definitely part of MCU. Definitely part of MCU.
Yeah, well, we know it is.
Must be.
As part of MCU as Spider-Man Homecoming is.
Definitely.
Exactly. We have yet to have the Tony Stark come in, but it is only a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As I said, if you are new, please like, subscribe, and rate and review us. We always love telling more and new people about our show. So make sure, if you'd like this episode, to subscribe so that you can, in a little over a month and a few days, listen to our breaking coverage on Defenders as it launches on August 18th worldwide, I believe. That's at exactly 12. Now, boys, if they want to also talk all things Marvel's Cinematic Universe and Defenders, where can they go?
Absolutely. You can come and join us over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/Defenders TV Podcasts. Lots of discussions going on. We're in a bit of a lull, obviously, while we're doing our Summer of Spider-Man. But once we get into our episode by episode discussions, there's loads of chat about anything Defenders.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is officially a lull. We've done 3 podcasts this week.
We have, yes. This is what we call a lull in our
Yes. And of course, you can provide feedback at defenderstvpodcast.com, or if you want to hear your own dulcet tones wafting over the airwaves, the digital airwaves. It's digital jazz, man. You can go to defenderstvpodcast.com, to our website, and click on the right hand side, the voicemail tab, and you can leave up to 90 seconds of your thoughts, comments, or discussion points on anything to do with Summer of Spidey, or of course anything to do with any of the Defenders, or in fact the Defenders, the quartet of street level superheroes. Yeah.
Absolutely. After Spider-Man 3, can we never talk about jazz on this podcast again, if
There's
possible?
biomechanical jazz. That's different.
Okay, cool. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, as Chris mentioned, you can go over to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and search for Defenders TV Podcast, or go through our link at our website at defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes, or search for us on any good or evil podcast catcher. Again, just search for Defenders TV Podcast. Subscribe to us in there and you'll get our episodes as they're released.
Yes, iTunes, also known as Apple Podcasts.
That's right.
Yeah. Can't wait till Google Play hits town.
Yeah, it'd be awesome when Google Play comes to Ireland.
For all of our American listeners, you already have it. We will be there as soon as it comes to Europe.
Yes, exactly.
But, lads, I cannot wait anymore. I'm sorry, I need to get into the discussion points. So, without further ado, please note, this is a 100% spoiler-filled podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have not watched this, what are you doing? Press pause. Go right now to the cinema. I don't care if you have to drive. Go watch this film. And then on your drive back, listen to us.
Like it.
But there. So, production. Derek, can you tell us who wrote and direct this beautiful, beautiful web-twipping, twip film?
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, the movie was directed by Jon Watts. Pretty unknown director, really. Jon Watts is really his only big claim to fame is a movie called Cop Car with Kevin Bacon. It's about kids robbing a cop car and Kevin Bacon chasing them down. So not much experience, but Marvel as a group has always tended to look at directors that they find something interesting in and put them in these roles as directing some of their huge films. So I guess this Marvel co-production with Sony is no different, really, after the last couple of Marvel films, looking at somebody kind of brand new to the scene and seeing what they can do with the material. This was written by Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley. They are the main writers for the movie. They are kind of known for their movie Horrible Bosses and the Vacation remake. Both quite funny films, actually.
Yeah. I remember Horrible Bosses. Loved it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's really good. But there are many other writing credits. We talked about last time with roughly 30 writing credits on Spider-Man 3. On this one, Jon Watts himself does get a writing credit, and Christopher Ford and Chris McKenna both get writing credits in this movie. So lots of different treatments of this movie have gone around for many years. Obviously, there's a bit of a Sony side and a bit of a Marvel side. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis of the movie?
Sure. In the wake of the Battle of New York between the Avengers and the Chitauri, construction worker Adrian Toomes is set up for a big payday with the rebuilding of New York. Until Tony Stark's new business, Damage Control, comes and takes the work out from under him. Toomes vows to change his ways to take advantage of the new order of things. 8 years later, after returning from his own adventure with the Avengers, Peter Parker is struggling to fit back into high school, too nervous to approach high school senior Liz, and too absorbed by his brief brush with superheroes to focus on the debate team. Peter spends all of his time contacting Happy Hogan, looking for his next mission. When he comes across some illegal arms traders in New York, Peter takes the opportunity to prove once and for all that he can step up from being a small-time hero. After he crosses paths with the leader of the gang, Adrian Toomes, now going by the moniker Vulture, and almost destroys the Staten Island Ferry. Tony is more convinced than ever that Peter isn't ready. But after removing all of the gadgets and toys Tony has given him, Peter steps up to the challenge and foils Toomes' plan to steal more of Stark's tech from under his nose. Peter is rewarded with an even more improved spider suit and a full-time place at Avengers Academy. But realizing he has plenty of life ahead of him, he decides to work his way up as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
What a film. What a film, what a film, what a film.
Mm-hmm.
If Ferris Bueller had a day off, he would go see this film.
And what a great reference to that in the film. I had that great scene when Peter's running through the back gardens and I'm sitting there as an old man like I am going, that's just like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And then the film's on TV in the background.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And he goes, great film. So nice little reference there.
I loved it. But boys, let's get into our top 5. For anyone who's just joining us for the first time, unlike our usual Defenders, when we go through the Netflix shows, we typically each have 5 points. For these films, what we now do is we're going to take kind of what we consider our best top 5 points between us, but also then what we usually go through is Peter Parker's arc, then we get into the main villain, then we do some of the supporting characters. We'll discuss at the end the heroes and villains relationship and close it all off with the ever amazing cinematic final battle and what we thought about it. So with that being the case, boys, let's talk about old Peter Parker himself.
Mm-hmm.
What we thought about this. I usually feel like I'm going to be talking 90% of this episode, but first I want to get your thoughts.
You know what? I have to say, I love this idea of no origin story for Peter Parker. I couldn't imagine that they would be able to pull this off. We had obviously the appearance of Spider-Man in Civil War joining up with the Avengers. So again, in that, he was drafted in, he had his moment, and then he disappeared from the movie. The idea of setting this movie a couple of months after that, where poor Peter is sitting at home rewatching his videos of his special day out with the Avengers and dying to get back to that time when he was a big superhero and never really talking about his origin story was brilliant.
Absolutely. Completely agree. I think they answered my prayers that they weren't going to go through some kind of endless retelling of the origin story. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think it was covered in 20 seconds when Ned mentions it briefly. So really, really top notch for doing that. I think it adds more, at this stage, we know Peter Parker, we know Spider-Man. It's great just getting that kind of little pitter-patter of that origin through the story, but it not being central. And I love Peter's arc. I mean, I love that handheld footage at the start. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was a real nice touch having that, but it also, immediately links it in to the wider MCU in such a cool little way. And then just how Peter is kind of keeps pining for that massive hero moment like he had in Berlin, doing all of that. And just gradually, as, he's too eager. I love it. It really kind of goes with Peter Parker for me. He's too eager. He wants to be involved. He's all of that. And I just like that by the end, we see him pairing back. He understands his neighborhood, his friendly neighborhood spider, and doing, the best for his neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Probably every so often we're getting called on for some, bit more bigger stuff like saving the world and so on with the Avengers. So really loved that whole arc and just even how it interferes with him at high school as well, and with his relationships, with the debating team and how that all kind of works into the story. I thought it was really, really, really well done.
Yeah, definitely.
Loved it.
And one of the things I really love about it is, I think I mentioned it on our Spider-Man 3 podcast, the storyline of a character becoming famous and having to reduce himself back down to his real self again has been done before. That is what they were trying to do in Spider-Man 3. And this story is basically Peter having to overcome his overconfidence and come back to being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It's amazing in better hands how well that story can be told.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And look, you cannot get more friendly neighborhood when you're standing on a roof and a guy goes, "Hey, you that Spider-Man?" He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do it, flip." And he just does the flip. And I'm like, yes, that's amazing.
Or saving a cat from a bodega and saving the shopkeeper from a fire. That kind of stuff is the cool stuff that Spider-Man should be doing in between, obviously, massive outings with the Avengers. I love this idea that they keep him grounded by the types of people that he's saving. There's some great moments in here where he sees a guy stealing a bike and takes it back, and then is looking for the owner of the bike, leaves a note on it to go, "If this is your bike, take it back. If it's not your bike, please don't steal it." The other guy that he thinks is breaking into a car, and he tries to stop him breaking into the car. It turns out it's the guy's car, and he disrupts everybody in the neighborhood by setting off his alarm. Including Mr. Stanley, yes.
Yeah,
of course.
We got our cameo as well, but we'll get back to that later.
But I think that's kind of why I did the whole League of Gentlemen reference with regards to the local hero for local people. I think it's like, it was just that conflict between the different scales of going big with the Avengers, but this is all kind of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stuff. And it just really worked because it came into Peter's arc of him being torn between, supporting the debating team, trying to fit in at high school, but still wanting to not be a part of it. I mean, it was even that, he is the clever kid, and that was shown, in the classroom scenes, but at the same time, almost this idea that he wants to give that up as well. I really like that side of it, which I've never really taken before from any of the other Spider-Mans. Not to say that it's not in there, but I that really kind of hit home here where, he's clever and so on, but he's not making a deal of it. He's just actually more focused on trying to save people in his neighborhood. And I really kind of like that. And I think it's done better than Ant-Man in terms of that smaller scale, but it still feels epic. By having Iron Man in there, having that footage at the start with the Avengers, and just how it's shot and directed as well.
But Chris, as our Spider-Man fan, what do you think of this version of Peter Parker's arc and this storyline of his?
I can't say I love this more. Guys, I'm coming out right now, and the spoilers for our kind of verdict and whether we defend. This is now my favorite Spider-Man film ever.
Wow.
Like, this is the Peter Parker and the Peter Parker arc that I wanted. Like, he is a high school student who looks and acts like a high school student. He is that nerdy, complex kind of character that you've always wanted. So once he puts on the mask, he becomes this person who we cannot be when he is Peter Parker. Like, so he becomes that kind of charismatic, loudmouth, kind of witty banter Spider-Man. Like the scene with the Avengers and the robbers in the Avengers masks. Like that is for me the iconic neighborhood Spider-Man. Because he's stopping a a teller or an ATM robbery, and he goes, "Hey, it's the Avengers, Thor, Hulk. It's great to finally meet you guys." Like, and obviously, like, a little Easter egg for Civil War, because yes, he hasn't met these characters in the actual real world. But it's just that witty, and he goes, "Hey, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that," and doing all these funny things, but then still making mistakes. And that's the bit I think is one of the most interesting parts on this, which is we've always seen Spider-Man in any of the origin stories or any of the Spider-Man films so far. Peter gets bitten and then instinctually knows how to be a hero.
Right.
Like, even including Spider-Man 1, where he's slowly becoming, and it's a couple of newspaper flying, kind of, like spinning newspapers and saving people. Like, this is him trying to get used to his abilities, his webs, his, like, everything. Like, so when I joked at the beginning, he's like that scene where he's running around the neighborhood and doing, like, the bike scene, but then he's like tries to swing from something, falls flat in his face, goes, "I'm okay," and stands up and like, "I'm okay." I'm like, that's brilliant because he's learning.
Absolutely. And even like in that bank scene as well, where, he's fighting the robbers, but then in attacking them and trying to prevent them from stealing all the dosh, that tech that they're using to cut out the ATM, goes across the street and to his favorite corner shop, where he gets his favorite snack. And all of a sudden it's that moment as well where he's like, "Oh God," like the guy who works behind the counter there. I can't remember the guy's name, but, goes to save him. Like, I loved that as well, because it was like, oh, cocky, oh, not too cocky, oh my God, what have I done, kind of thing. Like, that whole kind of learning what, that, he has to try and be careful to when he's rescuing or preventing something, just as much as being the witty thing. And you see that later where he's, to prevent the plane from crashing on the city.
Yeah.
I really, really liked how that came across as well, Chris, definitely.
So, I don't want to, obviously, yes, not seeing the origin, it was amazing. And I think they handled this most beautifully, which is the Civil War reenactment, which someone has posted online a side-by-side reenactment.
Oh, very good.
So literally they put the Civil War footage directly in there, and it syncs up perfectly.
Yeah,
absolutely. It is beautifully synced up.
Yeah.
But what I really liked was it was down to, hey, you guys already know who Spider-Man is. None of you, if you don't, well, you can find out. But here's a 30-second pick with Ned where he'll ask silly questions and answer all your questions for you. And then we're done. That's it. No more origin. And that's what I wanted. If I had to see it again, okay, fine. We all thought there was going to be some form of flashback, but they didn't even do that, which I think is giving a certain thing to the audience, saying, "Hey, we trust your intelligence. Yeah. We know that if you're seeing this, most likely you already care and know who Spider-Man is."
Absolutely, and I must say, just the idea of the actual origin conversation that happens with Ned is, look, I was bitten by a radioactive spider. Ned goes, "Can the radioactive spider bite me?" And he goes, "No, the radioactive spider's dead." That's the conversation about how he got his powers and where he is. What I did like is the other choice in the arc of Peter Parker to have Iron Man give him his suit and put the training wheels on. That whole concept of Tony Stark taking a Spider-Man under his wing and going, "I can give you even more power in the future when you've proven yourself to me." I really like that. I like the idea of him hacking the suit and getting access to the powers that he's not able to use, failing with those, using them in the wrong way. Lovely, funny scenes. But the underlying arc for Peter Parker is he's not ready to join the big leagues yet. And Tony knows this, and Tony's trying to help him along the way. So I really like that part of the arc. And is Tony right to take the suit back is kind of one of the questions that I have for you two guys.
Just quickly on the suit as well. No, I mean, I think, you see, that to me, where he takes the suit away, and I thought that it was a really good way of doing it. The subtext of that is, with great power comes great responsibility, absolutely, without having to say it.
Yep.
And really, again, hammer that saying to death. And that's what it tells you, that you're not ready. It was kind of interesting with the suit. It's just another point I have on it. There was a moment in this film where I thought, is the suit too techy? Is it? Certainly when he overrides it and all of that, because all of a sudden, for me, Spider-Man has always been really instinctive, the spider sense and so on. And that kind of just felt like it was lost because he's relying on all the tech built into the spider suit. I actually loved the tech. I thought it was cool. And I loved where he's learning with it fully upgraded and on in the first version of the suit and testing out the 150 odd combinations or whatever it is of how to shoot the web sling.
I think it was like 527. It's some ridiculous number, isn't it?
I thought that was really cool and I really liked it. So there was part of me that absolutely loved the tech Spidey suit, but there was another part of me that kind of just felt it removed that whole aspect of Spidey sense and the instinctiveness that Spider-Man has and Peter Parker. But it didn't detract for me, but I just wonder whether maybe they went too far, and so I was glad he didn't take version 2.
And I love
which
that
presumably would have meant he could have detonated nuclear warheads, like in Terminator. He was basically going to be Skynet.
Well, yeah, basically. But I did like the idea that for the last half of the film, he's put back in his old suit that he made himself, and that is the responsibility he has to learn, is how do you deal with all of these situations when all that tech is gone. A great way to do it without doing the origin story, as you said, Chris.
Yeah. So I think the suit was potentially it's a realistic element. If you have Tony Stark as a mentor, who has built Iron Man, who's a multi-billionaire. He built Vision, he built Ultron. He has all this at disposal. Yes, most likely he is going to upgrade your suit. He's going to upgrade Cap's shield. He's going to upgrade Thor's belt. He's going to do everything possible to power up his friends. So yes, that made sense. Was it too much? Like, I loved the joke about taser webs and kill mode. No, don't kill anyone. Like, or was it kill mode? Yes. Yeah. I think it was something he's entering kill mode and his eyes went dark to a red pimple. It's like, amazing. Like, it was fantastic. I loved Karen. I loved the II. Like, it all made realistic sense within the MCU.
Absolutely. Like, it made complete sense. I'm not saying that it didn't make sense. I think, and I loved it as well. And as I say, I loved all of that. But then it was on reflection after coming out of the cinema, like in the film, didn't think of it at all. And then it was only afterwards that I thought, and actually, Derek, you've made the point that it's only in going back to just his own homemade suit that he starts to understand and so on. And I think I'm glad they did that. I'm glad he didn't take version 2, because I think otherwise it becomes Iron Man just not in armor.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of what was starting to happen with me when it was suddenly, being able to look through walls and all this kind of stuff. I just thought, well, where's the challenge now?
Yeah.
Like, you potentially undermine the character's instinctive sense that he's gotten from being bitten. Where he would know that someone's behind the wall because he's got spider sense.
It is interesting to speak about the spider sense thing. There is a reference to that in Civil War, where they effectively do say that spider sense exists in the universe of this character of Spider-Man, but it's not like the comic books. He doesn't have spider sense from the off. And it does take the tech from Tony to hone the spider sense that he does have. So in this movie, the spider sense is kind of enhanced by having Karen, the AI that's within his suit, but he doesn't have that spider sense where he's standing in a room without his spider outfit on or a spider costume on, being able to know what's going on around him like he does in the comic books. That's not in this universe. So
he says that's why he had the blinkers and the goggles on, because his senses are so over-involved or they're so amped up that he needs it to concentrate. Yeah. That also being said, a lot of people on the internet, as you do, like to argue, and they have really. I know it's a strange place for people on the internet to be arguing, but there's a big thing that came out recently, since the film's come out, going, there is no spidey sense, there is no tingling, and they've come out and said, well, look, yes, as you said, it's in the universe. He doesn't have it in the traditional way where his, like, womp womp, warning, warning, as we've seen in, say, the Maguire-verse. But they said they are keeping it open for evolved powers. His powers will grow over time, and we may see reference to it more in the traditional sense in Spider-Man 2, which is great. And I just wanted to kind of come back and say, like, this arc is amazing because of him going back into his old suit and getting the new suit and, like, wanting to be more traditional. So, Absolutely. Like, when he has all the web options, he does go, no, just give me standard default webs. Like the shield webs, the taser webs. We've seen a lot of these in the comics already. But he'll always fall back on standard webs, which he built, which I love, by the way. We're back to mechanical web shooters, and he's the one building this, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I love we see some failed versions of the experiment as well in the film, just like pretty much everything that Peter does in this film. There's a couple of failed attempts to do a number of things throughout the film, just to point out that he's still very new at this.
Yeah, I love
he doesn't know everything.
Absolutely. It was great just him swirling stuff around in the chemistry lab, and even just where he stores it as well. I wouldn't want to get caught by the hall monitor.
No, but that was amazing. I just lifting it up one-handed, I was like, yes, that is sweet. So look, I kind of want to get on and discuss more things on this to kind of end on kind of where we think this arc has left Peter. Okay, so a lot of people are talking about it, and for me, it's one of the most beautiful moments of this scene is where Peter is crushed under rubble, and he has to pull himself. Like, he is literally in that a 15, 16-year-old kid crushed under rubble, crying, screaming for help.
Yeah.
And Tom Holland plays this beautifully. And this is ripped for our comic book aficionados. This is ripped from Amazing Spider-Man 33, which was back in 1966. And it's one of Steve Ditko's most amazing group of panels. So originally this was going to be a scene over 4 panels done, and it ended up being 4 or 5 pages, like 17 panels. And it's just, I'm actually going to quote Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin on this from Fat Man on Batman, or Fat Man on Spider-Man in their review. They talk about how, and it was only when they started talking about it that now it's sunk in, like, this whole piece, this Homecoming and Spider-Man is about will. The will to be and to survive and be both Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and take the knocks that come and be the man running, like the Peter Parker who has to decide not go to Homecoming, to disappoint people in order to serve the greater good, the greater responsibility, because he has the greater power. And that scene, even just thinking about it now in the film, was so beautifully done, because you see on Tom Holland's face, and they use the half mask, half face, which is iconic in a lot of Spider-Man kind of covers, and even in the logo in the top left-hand corner.
Absolutely,
which I loved.
used it all the way throughout the 90s, I believe.
Yeah. So they pulled that, and they showed Tom Holland, and kind of you see him go through this emotional state where he is like crying out for help because he's so out of his depth, and then slowly, like, making the conscious decisions of, like, this is on me. I'm the only one who could do this. I have to. And then pulling the rafters up and, like, picking up the cement blocks and, like, pushing himself beyond whatever he's done before. For me, that was just like,
it was really good.
It was an amazing pinnacle.
Superb.
Changing of the arc.
And I think Tom Holland was pitch perfect for me. I really enjoyed his take on Spider-Man. I absolutely loved that. And I think you're right, that scene just really, really just spoke 1,000 words of script in terms of what he was becoming in terms of Spider-Man and how he views the character, and ultimately leading to the end where he's doing it for himself. The people around him are important, and he turns down the Avengers Academy. That whole thing, really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Really good. I think, speaking of pitch perfect, how about getting on to the villain of this movie?
Our Batman has taken flight again.
Our Birdman has also taken flight, yes.
Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Oh my God. He, speaking of Batman, of course, there is the nod and the reference to his alter ego, alter former life as Batman, where him with his mechanical wings as Vulture goes up into the moon and is silhouetted there, which I was just, to be honest, it's a good job I was in the cinema, because, I don't know what I would have done to myself.
You
I squealed with joy. I love this man. I think, I love his performance here, and against Tom Holland in the car when it's revealed that he's the father of Liz. Absolutely fantastic. You could just sense the tension there between these two characters. I just loved it. Kind of a bit like with the Sandman from Spider-Man 3, or what could have been. He's a working class hero. He's cleaning up. This is his kind of big payday, and it all gets ripped. He becomes sympathetic. Yeah. It gets ripped away from him by the big multinational with regards to damage control. And it's like, so immediately there's that sympathy there. And he's like going, well, if they're going to play with the new technology and bend the rules, why not? Why not I? Yeah. And I just loved Michael Keaton. And I thought the the outfit for Vulture was fab. I loved his mask. As soon as those green eyes went on, I was just like, pure brilliance. Loved it. And the turbines, in the wings, Michael Keaton.
I'm here. I'm right there with you. That scene in the car with the confrontation with Jon Watts took something that anyone could do. Anyone with a camera could put 3 people in a car and film like that. Just the writing, the direction on that one scene for me is some of the most suspense-filled cinema I've seen in 2017. Like literally, it takes me back to Ex Machina to a degree, where there's that kind of creepy suspense. Like I'm like, I want to see what's happening, but like I also want to fast forward this because it's just it's killing me. But
it was straight out of a thriller. It really was. It was great.
Like, what Keaton does with his eyes in the rearview mirror as the realization is starting to creep over him of who Peter is just fantastic. It's great. The moment where he's waiting for Liz to get out of the car to have the real conversation with Peter. I love that he plays it off as I'm the father. I get to have this conversation with your boyfriend while you go off and start to enjoy the dance, Liz. And then he has the real conversation saying he will kill every single person he loves if he doesn't step off. Really, really good, really tense scene. Everything from Beetlejuice to Batman is in Michael Keaton here, where he's playing this maniacal, crazy character, but totally keeping it under the hood of a normal dad and a normal worker.
So the MCU has, to a degree, that had an issue with its villains, okay? And I'm laying it out there that to date, this is the best, most well-rounded kind of, in my opinion, like the Vulture is the most well-rounded from a character development point of view villain in the MCU right now. And I'm not talking about the Netflix piece, because obviously we have Kingpin, we have Wilson Fisk, which is some of the best. I'm talking like cinematic, right? Because
you shouldn't be separating that. We talk about the Defenders all the time.
I know, but I just mean because we've had Ronan the Accuser, not the best backstory in the world in the film, right?
Oh, absolutely
it's just he was a bit weak.
Yeah.
But this film, they built this perfectly because you understand Adrian Toomes.
Yeah.
Like if I'm opening the scene with his origin to a degree is amazing because oh by the way, did you notice that exact hall was the one used where the Chitauri monster falls into? That was it. Like
cool.
They actually recreated the set. But having it like open with that and expect like everyone would feel that. It's like, hold on, I bought all this gear. The city has made me do it. I've overextended myself. If you, Mr. and Mrs. Damage Control, I love that introduction, by the way.
Yep, Tyne Daley from Cagney and Lacey. And a nice little cameo role there, quite cool.
And unfortunately, a failed sitcom that we were going to get and now we'll never get.
Yeah.
Which I still thought would potentially now, if they get enough feedback, they may kind of pull that pilot again out of the dusty drawer that it's in.
But let's see. Powerless didn't do very well for DC. So
no. Yeah, I know.
But there were a few references to Damage Control over on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So nice to see them fully realized in the movie. Damage Control has been around for many, many years in comic books. It's quite cool to see them in here.
Yeah, and it's just having you feel for Toomes in this. Like, this is a new origin for him. It's not the comic book origin of the Vulture. This is they've done an MCU version, which is fine because he is an average Joe man who loses his business, and in order to keep his family and his workforce alive, he sits down and goes, well, hold on, if they're not going to play fair, I'm not going to play fair. And that's simply, you can see the progression because then he goes to weaponry. And now he is a bit crazy, but the first kill we see him do, which is spoilers, he kills the original Shocker because with a gun.
Shocker.
he turns to the Tinker and goes, I thought that was the anti-gravity gun.
That's right.
And then goes,
Loved it.
Like, just that.
Yeah.
You see his progression through this film.
Yeah, like in fairness, I'm gonna slightly not dispute, but disagree with you on the best MCU villain. I think there's one big thing that's hampering the MCU now in their villains, and that's because they have so many heroes to get through in every single film. Look how many were in Civil War, and Captain America is my absolute favorite character. How many characters they had to deal with in Civil War. I still think the villain in that movie is probably my favorite MCU villain because he is a normal man, hard done by the actions of these heroes, and he uses that against them all. I think that's something I thought was played really, really well.
You are referring to Zemo.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
But I love the fact that in Homecoming they're able to strip it back to a really small cast of people, loads of unknowns in here playing some very small parts and some background characters here, which allows you to do one hero character versus one villain character really here. So that allows them to get a lot. And then you get an actor like Michael Keaton in to play the role, and you're striking gold here, you know?
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to dispute you with Zemo. Like, I think in our review, I did say he was one of the best. Mm-hmm. He's just been, in my opinion now, overshadowed by the Vulture, by Michael Keaton. And to kind of top it off, because I know there were other Spidey villains here that we want to talk about quickly. The ending, the post-credit scene, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, we see him talk to Blank, which we'll get to, and he has the chance to reveal what he knows. There you go. That is the other villain.
I just thought Blank.
It's blankety blank.
That's all I could think of.
But he has the chance to reveal Spidey's identity right there and then to someone who's right out like, me and my mates want to kill him, and he doesn't. Yeah. Now, it could be because Spider-Man saved him. It can be because Spider-Man knows who's family. Like, there's loads of reasons. But that giving that character that just 2 seconds, like, I'm not doing it, and we don't know why he didn't do it, it's still now making me think about why. Yeah.
No, I definitely like that whole concept throughout the film between those two characters. When they do get the opportunity to talk, he tells Peter the reason why I'm letting you go is because you saved my daughter. So, hey, that's a good one. Thank you. That gives you one chance. And then he saves Toomes at the end of the movie as well. So he's now saved the life of his daughter and him. So he gets a chance here. I don't know whether it means that we will never see the Vulture back in future as a villain of Peter Parker, but I like that he's given him a chance here.
I hope we do see him back. I really do. I think just coming on the best villain, yes. I think I'm kind of with Chris here. I think he's certainly up there for me. And I think it's just, you see, a much more complicated story of him, having stuff taken away from him, and then just that you sense he's a loner with his band of brothers around him, like the Tinkerer and Shocker, and then you realize he's a family man as well, and it brings it back to that first opening scene, where he's looking after his family, but you've seen him killed, and it makes for a really complex kind of character, and then added to that the complexity that he now knows the identity of Spider-Man, and he knows that it's Peter Parker, and he doesn't reveal it. So it was a really great kind of journey that he went on, I think. And maybe that's a Sony influence, ultimately. I mean, let's not forget this is kind of co-produced. Because I thought the Sandman was good. Doc Ock. It's almost like a melding of those two. You've got the sort of working class, down and out kind of aspect of the Sandman, and he takes his protection of his family through by selling illegal arms. But at the same time, he's got the mechanical wings of the Vulture, almost a bit like, obviously, with the the mechanical appendages of Doc Ock. But I wonder whether there was a Sony influence here with regards to the villain, or whether MCU are just starting to get to grips with how to do villains. And again, I think the smaller scale fits that nicely.
Absolutely.
Because big grand scale villains need to be grand and big, and I think the one that's worked for them best has been Loki, to an extent.
Absolutely.
Zemo, I really enjoyed that as well. Definitely. But I loved him as the villain. I think definitely one of the best in the MCU. For sure.
I think when you're doing a new type of MCU movie, you need to have a new type of villain, and this is a great type of villain. I hope he's the kind of template they're able to use in the future to give us a proper villain in the MCU movies in the future, definitely.
Before we move on, can we talk about the reveal? Like, what did you guys think? So, like, having Peter there, opening the door. I've heard other reviews talk now. I think it's a very American thing. People going, "Oh my god!" like audible gasps in the cinema. I know. I definitely here in Ireland when I went to see it, we had people less audible gasps, more manic whispering.
Yeah, they never shut up in Irish cinemas. You're right. No, I was surprised, I must admit. And then thinking back immediately after it, I was going, how did I not know this? He's been getting phone calls from his wife telling him to come home over and over again throughout this movie. Of course, there's going to be a connection with the character, but no, they hit it quite well. I think they hit it.
Yeah, I think they hit it well, and I think, if I hadn't been in such a comfortable cinema seat, I would have fallen off my seat, because I think it was a great play to have that twist. It may have been obvious for some, but certainly for me, it wasn't. I really, really enjoyed it. But as soon as it happened, it was the shock of thinking, well, yeah, he's he's blue collar family man kind of thing. So why wouldn't he have a family? And then for it to be that, again, with, Peter Parker's date, Liz, for that. And it was just like, oh my God. And then, just all those scenes, I just think cemented, Michael Keaton, Adrian Toomes, Vulture here in this film. As being so good, because up to that point it was with, him with his band. All of a sudden you've got this really creepy, disturbing kind of thriller-esque vibe going on. And you realize that, he's killed someone, yet he's cooking with his wife. He's putting a roof over his family's head and keeping them in the lifestyle that they're accustomed to or whatever. And it's just like, okay, this is really interesting. This is cool. And Michael Keaton plays it so well.
Absolutely.
So my take is, I knew something. There had to be a twist. I was waiting for it in the film. I did not expect this. Nice. And that's a hats off. Like, I love my cliches and tropes. And it's a trope, but I didn't call it.
Nope.
And like, that for me is a hat tip. When he first opened the door, I went, oh my God, he's taken Liz hostage.
Ah, nice.
And that's where my head went. I was like, oh yeah. And then when the mother came in, I was like, oh no, it's not. It's actually, and it clicked and I went, okay, I should have seen this. This was telegraphed a mile off, as you guys said, the phone calls and everything. I was like, I went, hats off. Jon Watts. I know he had some influence in the writing of this, but I like, hats off to Jon, hats off to Jonathan Goldstein, and the other Jon,
Thank you.
This. You're welcome, Jon, and the other Jon. This for me was hats off, guys. You've done something. Like, we had the Civil War plot twist. With the Tony element, but they I didn't see that coming, but to me this was still more of a shock. Right. And not because the Civil War one rewrote history, it was huge, but this, for some reason, I think it's that psychological thriller kind of piece that John brings up, it was very much like, oh no, like
it was just done at the right. It was done at the right point of the film as well. So you weren't expecting it. You were expecting this is going to be his date night. It's homecoming, so he's getting the moment to finally go on a date with the girl. He finally has that moment, and you're just not expecting that the door is going to open and this huge tense scene is going to follow. But moment.
It's that the rug is being pulled from him as his two different worlds collide, and it's because I think it's so personal. You know, here's the girl in high school that he fancies but can't articulate it. He's managed to find the courage. They've gone on a date to homecoming. He's, you know, about to meet the folks, and all of a sudden his worlds collide, and it's that personal aspect of it, and it's this whole thing of this film kind of focusing down more on the intimate aspects, and that makes it more ripping, because it's then, it becomes more like a thriller. It really does. And I thought it was excellent.
Ever.
Well, absolutely.
Yes. All right, boys.
We are going to need to crack on to the supporting characters.
So, let's quickly talk about the supporting villains and then go in directly into the supporting characters. Yeah. So, we had the Shocker, two variations of him, which I thought was quite interesting.
Absolutely. And what I loved about the Shocker was I recognized the costume of the Shocker before he even said his name. He had the yellow arms with the diamond cross pattern on them, which was really cool. Then he gets killed. I'm like, okay, I guess that's not the Shocker. Then the Shocker 2 comes along, and within about 2 scenes, he's also wearing the same rough costume. He's also wearing the yellow arms with the diamond stripes on him. Thought that was quite a nice little touch there. Just to remind you, this is our Shocker for the movie. Quite cool.
And I thought I liked this because, again, we had our Civil War throwback where the fists are throwbacks to the one that the Skull and Crossbones uses.
There you go.
Which I thought was great and the training of the Shocker 2 I thought was fun. I thought
Bokeem Woodbine, who plays the Shocker 2, actually just does a great job in this of selling the idea that he's just kind of been given this weapon, doesn't really want to use it, thinks it's all a bit stupid, and then after a while he's like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yes. As John kind of gave away earlier, we saw the Scorpion.
Yes.
Well, we saw Mark Garvin, who is the titular character who becomes the Scorpion, and to make it ever more slap in the face, he now has a big scorpion tattoo on his neck.
Yep. Yes. Very smart.
Nice Easter egg. Could it mean that we will see him in an animatronic scorpion type outfit in the next one? Maybe. Don't forget, we also saw Cosmo and Howard the Duck in Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's nothing set in stone, but potentially, yes, we will see him.
Yeah, he is shacked up with Vulture.
Yep.
So he knows how to put together a good old biomechanical
suit. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, but then we also got the Tinkerer, who actually is the real brains behind the brawn in this. I have to admit, I loved this version of the Tinkerer. Nerdy, not too menacing. Sometimes in the versions of the Tinkerer we've got, it's this like psychotic man with a genius who likes to think. No, this is a guy who just likes playing with the power cells and making things. Like you see him use the heist equipment to get a beer out of the fridge. Which is like hilarious. I was like, brilliant. And then he keeps wanting to try and test his skills. So he keeps talking about the high altitude piece, and he keeps talking about it and keeps talking about it and keeps talking about it until obviously it becomes we know why. Obviously being the ship piece. But I love that variation on it. I thought it was a nice. It was just a nice version of this character. And
I love when they MCU a character like this and don't call it out. They don't call out he's got a moniker from the comic books. The whole time I was going, is it the Fixer? Is it the Tinker? Is the Fixer? Is it the Tinker? No, he's constantly tinkering with stuff. That must be the Tinker. I just really liked how they do that and how they bring in these kind of characters from the comic books. They don't need to. It's just a lovely touch. It feels like we're getting a setup here for possibly the Sinister Six or the Fearsome Four, whichever version they want to use as as foes of Spider-Man in the future. As these characters started to appear and get their own weapons or get their own little traits in there, you're kind of going, they're all going to team up together versus Spider-Man in some future movie. Yeah. And I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm going Spider-Man 3. Basically, probably Spider-Man 2 will get a version of some form of the Green Goblin, and we'll get a very MCU Sinister Six, where Spider-Man actually is part of the Sinister Six, because he spoilers for the comic books. But anyway, it's a long. Go read the Ultimate Universe, Spider-Man Sinister Six.
No spoilers for the comic books. Nice one, Chris.
Yeah. But anyway, so let's go talk about the real supporting characters. And kicking it off, let's talk about a topic that a lot of people have given out about on the internet. Shocker.
Oh, never read the internet, Chris. What did you think?
I know. We had Aunt May. Yeah. We have the quite foxy, quite sassy Aunt May. So
pervy Aunt May.
I wouldn't go that far. Let's not go that.
No. There was an uncomfortable moment where she lingers slightly too long on Peter Parker's abs, his Marvel abs, which I think any aunt, maybe it was a look of pride.
Yes, I'm going for the look of pride. I'm going for.
I think I'll go with that too.
Yeah, exactly. So, boys, what did we think? We had. As I said, this is the youngest version of Aunt May. She is de-aging in every film we get.
Said it's Benjamin Button, basically. She's getting younger.
Like, I love this. The concept is that he's 15 years old. You know, the idea of his aunt being 70 if he's 15 is completely, that's really unlikely. Like, it's very unusual that you would have someone 60 years your senior as your aunt. So, like, she's in her late 40s, almost 50 now, Marissa Tomei. And she looks fantastic, but that's the right age for someone who's got a nephew who's 15, you know?
Yeah. I loved her in this role. I thought it felt really natural. It didn't feel overbearing. And again, I think it was, like, actually, you know, with this new version, version 3.0 of Aunt May, I think I love the previous Aunt May, absolutely, and really, you know, it is pretty faithful to the comics, you know, but my goodness, I feel now that the old Aunt May was way overbearing, and I like the kind of more standoffish of this new souped up, sexy, sassy Aunt May. I thought it worked with the new dynamic. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I thought it really worked. She was still kind of badgering him, but it just didn't feel too kind of oppressive, because maybe closer to each other in terms of the age-wise. It felt fresher.
It makes sense. I love the scene in the restaurant where the two of them are sitting down chatting, and she gets an extra dessert from the waiter, and Peter has a little slag at her that, no, that's because he thinks you're attractive, Aunt May. And it's like, me? Really? Lovely little moment. The moment where Ned and Peter are going to the party, and she decides to have the talk about his body changes, and they both kind of laugh it off and run out of the car. You know, I love those little moments. It does feel like I've got aunts like this, you know, aunts that are much more my friends than my instructors in life. And that's what this is representative of. This is a much closer relationship than you probably saw in the past. The old Aunt Mays always felt like they were just mother replacements, and that's it. And they kept him at arm's length because they were replacing his mother. This Aunt May really works as a friend character to Peter.
A confidant.
Yeah, a modern mother.
Modern mother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, like I'm happy with the Benjamin Button sassy, sexy Aunt May.
So in Spider-Man 2, she is going to be about 12, right?
Yeah, she's actually going to be in high school with him.
I think I like the talk. One of my favorite scenes is the montage teaching him how to dance, tie his tie. Because you do see that scene in the restaurant where they're just eating and having they're swapping stories, and then he has to ask about for a new backpack. Yeah. Like, it does seem that this Aunt May is like confidant. She is now. we still don't know where Uncle Ben is, or who Uncle Ben was, or if there ever was an Uncle Ben.
I think there is a reference to it in the movie. He does say that she's gone through a lot and he doesn't want to put her through any more. Which I like. I liked that that's the reference. I like that they again don't harp on. Do you not remember a couple of years ago this happened and he died and now she's been left alone? There's none of that. I like that it's just she's been put upon, she's lost things have gone not so well for her, and I don't want to be a burden to her.
Absolutely. It was great that,
I like that.
Yeah, it was great that one of the longest product placements on film has finally come to an end.
No more Uncle Ben.
No more Uncle Ben.
The one interesting bit I heard just before recording, there was Melissa was doing an interview, and there was a deleted scene, which hopefully we'll get in the Blu-ray release, where she saves a girl and Peter sees her. And basically it's Matt May's heroic moment, and we find out that that's what Peter does. He gets his heroic streak and wanting to help streak from her. Cool. And Peter sees her do this, but then when Peter's in the Spider-Man suit, gets home, he goes and asks how my hair day was. She lies and says, oh, everything was fine, and nothing kind of happened, because she doesn't want to play it down and worry him. And he says the same thing about being Spider-Man, who she sees getting kind of roughed around, blah, blah, blah. I loved it. I thought it was a really nice...
That's a nice idea.
I want to see that. I actually want to see the scene in the deleted scenes, because I think that will round out the character. But before we move on to the other supporting characters, the closing F-bomb that is cut, shall we say, boys.
Much like Avengers Assemble in Civil War,
exactly.
Yes, that's a pretty huge moment for Aunt May to know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. It's really interesting. I don't know where they're going to take it.
She keeps spying into his room.
Lock your door, Peter.
Well, that was one part I was going to say. He doesn't lock his door, and I'm a bit like, really, a 15-year-old boy not locking his door half the time? I remember when I was 15, my door was permanently locked.
Oh, God.
Yes. But I love this. I'm dying to see where they take this, because the aftermath of this is Infinity War, is Avengers.
Yep.
So will we see it in that? Will Tony call upon Spidey, and Aunt May goes, oh, you're not going out there, like, kind of thing.
See, it doesn't feel like the character would do that, and that's why I kind of like it. It does feel like she would be supportive of him as long as he is doing the right thing, and that's why I think her character arc in the movie is really good, to set up the fact that if she does learn his identity, she's not going to be like the overbearing Aunt May in the past. Spider-Man hasn't done anything wrong to the city. Like when am I right in saying that in Spider-Man 3 Aunt May, or Spider-Man 2 Aunt May realizes that Peter is Spider-Man, or there's some connection between the two that she's making, something about when she's talking to him.
The Amazing Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire ones.
Right, and at that stage, there's a lot of criticism of Spider-Man in the media that she believes effectively. So yeah, in this case, we have a local guy who's putting a mask on and saving local people, and in that case. To John's point, in that case, this Aunt May would be willing to probably let him go off and do what he's doing.
And we didn't burn him.
No. The one bit I will say is, I think we will get the iconic scene of Tony and Aunt May facing off when he tries to take or bring a kind of Peter somewhere. She's like, you're not going to bring him into war, or don't. We'll get him closing the door, going, don't go into space like you did last time, bring him home safe, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we have a raft of other supporting characters. So let's talk about the comic relief.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Ned. I love this character. I absolutely loved him. I think for, the comic relief, just that interaction with him and Peter, it just felt like kids at high school, and it was really good. And I have to say, I loved it when he asked, do you lay eggs? That for me was hilarious. The idea that Spider-Man would lay eggs, or summon an army of spiders, like with Ant-Man.
Like Ant-Man, yes.
Really, really cool. But I thought this, I thought he was a great character. I really did. I thought it was absolutely, along with Peter Parker, one of the hearts and souls of the movie, to be honest.
Absolutely. Really well played. Loved this character from the moment he dropped that Death Star Lego Death Star on the floor at finding out that his best friend is Spider-Man from YouTube. From that moment onwards, he sealed his place in my heart as one of the best comedy characters in Marvel. Loved the character.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I love that this is he is Ned Lead from the comic books, but he's an amalgamation of the MCU, Miles Morales' best friend, Ganke Lee, as well. And I like that they kind of brought these two people together. And I love how he got his own arc as well. Mm-hmm. He got his going from nothing to kind of being like Spider-Man's best friend, becoming then Oracle, the man on the computer.
Yeah, that was cool.
I loved him rolling back and forward in the library between the 4 computers because it just seems like such a low rent version of Oracle from Batman. It's really like, where do you go that has loads of computers that I can move back and forward and look at maps and look at stuff that's going on over there and look at other things, and you see him just wheeling back and forth.
Like, what are you doing, Ned? I'm watching porn.
Yes, that
was
me,
really good.
That was just perfect.
Yes. But one of the other hidden characters in the movie really is Zendaya. So Zendaya is a well-known character if you're under the age of about 15. She is an actress that works on Disney Channel. Throughout this film, I loved the fact that I had actually heard about this character from loads of press that were being done. I'd never seen the actress before. She's in the background for most of the film. I actually thought the actress who played Liz was Zendaya because she seemed to be so much to the forefront. I love the fact that this is the MJ for this movie. Now, okay, there may have been other statements made after this, may not be the Mary Jane Watson of this universe. It is if it works, right? So I love the fact that she is just a really good snarky teen every time she's in the background of scenes. She just lights up a little moment, absolutely. An extra little comedy character, another member of this nice John Hughes type high school comedy that's going on in the background of the Spider-Man movie. I thought she worked really, really well.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, look, I've seen my MJs. I've seen my MJ on screen. I've seen my Gwen Stacy on screen. Mm-hmm. I'm open to seeing this version of MJ on screen where she is not the class. We already know she's gifted. We know she's intelligent, but she's not the beauty that everyone that you would expect with the Go Get 'Em Tiger MJ, and she's not then the class president kind of Gwen Stacy.
Yeah,
she's the loner kind of corner, kind of back row, doodling away kind of MJ, and I'm like, I want to see this. I want to see a romantic involvement. I want to see how the character progresses. I know we saw her in the premiere. We know that they can make her the drop dead gorgeous kind of MJ where you face a tiger, you've hit the jackpot.
There you go.
She can deliver that line because she can be, but I want to see where, like, I'm assuming in Homecoming 2 or whatever they do call it.
I know. They're running out of words.
Homecoming again. We will see that blossoming love interest kind of culminating in maybe some kind of prom or something, and that scene where he'll take her and it's face it, tiger, you've hit the jackpot.
It is, and then it's going to be Spider-Man prom and Spider-Man debutante's ball, isn't it? It's Spider-Man graduation or something.
I think graduation. Not. I think because they'll continue with this, play on graduation. It's him graduating from Queens to Manhattan.
There you go.
I think that's what we'll get.
Or it could be matriculation.
Yes. Teach a new word to the kids. Why not?
Spider-Man matriculation.
All right. So another one of the characters another one of the main characters in the background. We have had him before in some of the other movies. Flash Thompson. I have a very new version of Flash Thompson. In the past, he's always been a kind of the bully character to Peter Parker, the kind of buff guy to the nerdy guy, complete opposite of Peter. I kind of like what they're doing here with Flash Thompson. I like the idea that he's very similar to Peter. He's as intelligent as Peter. His replacement with Peter doesn't turn up to debate club. It's always Flash gets the second chair. So that's kind of the reason why he's bullying Peter the whole time. Penis Parker, the shout that's going on in when he's DJing at Liz's party is hilarious. And I'm sure really sad for poor Peter that he's suddenly been reduced to Penis Parker, which will probably stay with him for the rest of his time in high school. But I really like the idea of having Flash Thompson being a contemporary of Peter, very similar to him, and probably just being jealous of the fact that people will always choose Peter over him.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice choice.
I can't agree more. Again, I've seen the Flash Thompson twice already, the bully. Like, I'm open to this updated version of a bully who probably uses his popularity. He probably has 1 million Instagram followers and uses it to cyberbully Peter. Like, we will see that, and that's who this person is. He is a troll. He is the new bully for the age. And again, jumps back to the John Hughes, like the style, which is like they're all similar. They're all kids. It's not one. The intelligence is there, but it's. We talk about the local and it's the small setting. The bad guy in this is not like the bad guy in Flash Thompson is Peter Parker's rival. Like, it's not like, to a degree, another flying goblin. We have Flash Thompson. Yeah. And I think this is a lovely view on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to move on to Tony Stark.
Right.
There was fears going to this. Everyone thought this was going to be Iron Man 4, the film, because we did get some heavy credits. Boys, it was just the right amount for me. I loved it.
Can I quote Empire Magazine's review of this movie, which I thought was perfect, which was Robert Downey Jr. literally phones in his performance as Tony Stark, which I thought was perfect. He's perfectly used. There was no huge moment where this is Robert Downey Jr. doing a Robert Downey Jr. movie. He's used in all the right places, and I suppose the movie leaning on Happy Hogan a lot more than Tony Stark, a lot more than I was expecting. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Was a really good choice for this film. This is, Happy is the bumbling adult. He's a great foil to, if you want to have a kid-centric movie, you have to have an adult that also is a bit of an idiot. So, Happy was the right choice to probably do the scenes that I thought were going to go to Tony Stark.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. I think it was used just the right amount. And I think, for me, again, the whole lean over where he's opening the door, I know that was in the trailer as well. That still just made me chuckle. I liked,
going for a hug.
I'm opening the door. Really good. I like the fact that Tony Stark was the one, in subtext to deliver with great power comes great responsibility. And I like the idea that because of Tony's nature, and for Peter, it's like, why is he not giving me attention? That kind of age difference. And I like the idea that, Peter thought he was being ignored by him because he was a kid, when in fact it was, no, we handed it to the FBI because we thought they would do it. It's just that maybe there's still not that relationship there between Peter and Tony to that extent. I like that kind of standoffishness or apparent standoffishness, which actually he's watching him all the time. He's got Happy Hogan, the chaperone, so he's there all the time, but it's not on screen, and it's just, I think, the right amounts, definitely.
Yeah. There's so much to pick apart about this movie, in a good way. So much to talk about this movie. I just want to pick up on one tiny little point that John mentioned there. The conversation between Tony and Peter, where Tony says to Peter, I gave that to the FBI, who are the people to deal with this stuff. This is something that's kind of answering the question in the MCU of, you have the Avengers who take care of the space stuff. You have Doctor Strange who takes care of the other realms and multi-dimension stuff. You have the Defenders, who are the street level people who are taking care of the Hand, really, is what we've learned over the course of the 4 seasons that we had. And Peter Parker was supposed to be operating kind of below them. But what Tony Stark is telling him is there are people that operate below all of this stuff, all of these people. They are called the police force. They are called the fire brigade. They are called the FBI and the CIA. They're all involved in taking care of the world. We only try and help people that can't be saved by those people. And you're not at our level yet, Peter. I just thought it was a nice little commentary on something that we've kind of wondered about. Who takes care of the day-to-day dangers that happen in the Marvel USA, we'll call it. And the people that take care of those are just the same people that take care of them in our world.
Yeah, the Sokovia Accords.
Well, just the normal day-to-day police officers, fire service, FBI. I like that there's a little reference to them in there. The superheroes are saying, we're not taking over the jobs of the people who are paid to do them. We're here to take care of the things they can't take care of. I thought that was a nice little moment.
Absolutely.
Anyway, sorry for derailing it there.
No. But so, first point. One, I am sure Jon Favreau is so happy he self-cast himself as Happy Hogan. I say he's now raking in the money and so happy about it. I loved him as Happy Hogan. He was the proxy mentor. He was used at the right amount, and it stopped becoming an Iron Man 4 film. Mm-hmm. Robert Downey Jr. in this phoned it in, but in, as you said, that beautiful way where he actually phoned in an Iron Man saving scene.
Oh, brilliant.
And I thought it was fantastic. I loved the ending bit as well, with that the three of them again talking. But more than that, the scene you just mentioned, when he's giving out to Peter and he mentions the FBI, and that culmination in, it's like, I'm trying to help you. Like, why won't you let me help you? Yeah. And then he's like, well, I have the suit, I have the power. And he's like, no, you can't do anything with the suit. You do not deserve the suit. But by proxy, that scene acting as with great power comes great responsibility. But if you're not willing to put the effort in, and if you're not good enough, you don't deserve the power or the responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That for me, it was perfect. And I want to see more. I want to see Tony. I will be unhappy if Robert Downey Jr. does not make some form, and Jon Favreau, in the next Spider-Man, because he is now the stick to Daredevil. He is the Xavier to the X-Men, in that he will provide the mentorship, and that he will be the teacher to Peter Parker.
Right.
But he's going to allow Peter to make his own bloody mistakes. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not going to pull him out of all the dangers. But he is willing enough to help him out when he makes the stupid mistakes big enough, such as the ferry scene, which we can talk about in a bit. He's willing to step in and scold him and go, you overreached. You need to solve this. And don't forget, actually, I'm solving things too on the background, or actually the FBI kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not ready.
I love that they still keep the pieces of Robert Downey Jr.'s character as Tony Stark. I love that he's still crap at kids. We found that out in Iron Man 3. He's still a child himself, and he's terrible dealing with children. I love that he's still looking for approval from Peter Parker, going, because I did that, is that the reason why you changed your mind and why you realized you should be going back to being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Is because I did it? That's what it is, wasn't it? Yeah, it was because I gave you the right guidance at the right time. He's still a needy child, as Tony Stark always has been. And I love that that's continually played throughout this. So I'm not too sure whether we're going to see him back in Homecoming 2 or whatever it's called. We'll definitely see this relationship continued in the 3 Marvel movies that Tom Holland's going to be doing as Spider-Man. I'm wondering whether they're just going to move on and let Spider-Man make his own mistakes with maybe a phone call from Tony.
Well, that's the thing. Bar killing him off in the Avengers, in the Infinity Wars, like, they will have to even have some form of phone call, because he now is central to the Spider-Man lore in the MCU.
Maybe.
He took Peter from the YouTube boy to Civil War, to that scene, brought him in his underoos, and now he's upgraded him and brought him. He's being the mentor. So bar death, destruction, or falling out, we're left with he has to some degree be in it. And I would be happy
I just wonder if Happy's going to be just a little bit more likely to pass the messages on to Tony next time. I think that's going to be.
But I don't think he needs to be in the film. I mean, because otherwise, there's a danger that Iron Man is just going to creep into Spider-Man, and like, he's got him in on the Avengers. It will certainly cross over with regards to the MCU Infinity Wars and so on. But I think with Spider-Man, hopefully they keep it at least this level, if not less, because I think it's Spider-Man, and Spider-Man operates on his own rules. But if he's part of the Avengers, then he'll be with Tony in that sense. But I mean, I like that relationship. Absolutely, don't get me wrong. But I think for the Spider-Man films, Tony is going to have to just step back because, in fact, the ending of this is saying, look, Tony, I don't want to be in the Avengers Academy. I want to go off and defend my own neighborhood. But that's not to say I'm out. Yeah. And I think that whole ending is saying, thanks, Tony, for all your help, but I need to find my own way. And that will leave, Tony, at least in the Spider-Man series of films between Sony and MCU and Marvel, that Tony's influence will not be as obvious within the movies.
Okay. Well, okay. I think they're all valid points because who knows where it's going to go.
Exactly.
So we have one other supporting character who we've seen, and well, actually we have two, but we'll discuss one later. We have Aaron Davis. Donald Glover himself is in this film. Boys, I take all the Easter eggs. I want to let you guys.
You took my Easter egg, Chris. I shall never forgive you.
I know, but I'm giving you this Easter egg. So
no, I love Donald Glover. Absolutely. He is, of course, the uncle of Miles Morales.
That's right.
And not a Morales, but a Davis. So once removed, maybe. Is also known as the Prowler. But yeah, I really, it was only, in fact, it's almost a cameo, I suppose, rather than supporting character in a sense. But like, I really enjoyed, seeing Donald Glover on screen. I think he's fantastic from Community, through to his, recent stuff. He's obviously going to be as well in the Star Wars movie about Han Solo and so on.
His TV show Atlanta is very good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So like it was just really understated, fairly kind of deadpan, but I really enjoyed it. I loved him getting sort of locked onto the boot of his car, trying to give Spider-Man a bit of street cred as well. Just really a cool little cameo / supporting aspect here, I think, and obviously with a big impact for Spider-Man.
Could have a big impact in the future, definitely.
Yeah.
And the reference is that his nephew lives in the city, so like that little touch that he's going to help Spider-Man out because he doesn't want the damage happening to the community where his nephew lives.
And maybe then Peter Parker will snuff it in Infinity Wars.
Never know.
I loved that Donald Glover was given this. He has voiced Miles Morales in the animated shows, and there's a question mark whether he is voicing Miles Morales in the new upcoming Spider-Man animated film.
Yeah.
But I like they made him the Prowler. The potential of getting him potentially on screen as some kind of souped up villain or kind of anti-villain. I don't know what to do. Getting to see him and the Prowler get up would be cool. And there's a nice little nod here as well. The license plate on the car that he's webbed to, UCSM01, which is Ultimate Comics Spider-Man #1, where we get the first appearance of Miles Morales.
Very good.
Nice little nod.
Cool.
This was, I feel, some form of fan service. There are lots of rumors that we can get to at a later point or in another episode where Miles may come into the MCU. I don't know. Who knows? But I think it was good. It hit the nail on the head.
Absolutely.
And there we go. So at this point, moving on to point 4. Typically, we would talk about the hero-villain relationship, and I want to bring in one of the part that joins the hero and villain and their relationship in this, which is Liz Allen. Liz Allen, or Liz Toomes, ? Question mark. We need to figure that one out. She kept her mother's maiden name.
Yeah.
Well, we'll figure that point out. Yes, so Liz Allen is the connecting tissue between our hero and our villain.
Absolutely.
Guys, what did you think?
It was great. I mean, I think we've mentioned it before, really, that she was the crucible for these two, these protagonists and antagonists. She was the center of it. And I mean, I think it really just elevated, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Toomes and Vulture here with this single focal point of Liz and her storyline of gradually sassying it up to Peter, getting the date, and then the reveal that obviously her father is the bad guy. It is Peter's nemesis that he's been fighting around New York all this time, and it was really, really good. I think it really added so much to this movie.
Liz Allen was originally introduced. She's been around since the introduction of Spider-Man in the Amazing Fantasy,
right?
And it wasn't actually named until I think it was issue 14.
Right.
She's always been a supporting character of Spider-Man, and I like that she was used as this connective tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Was her performance fantastic? I'm middling on her performance.
Okay.
She was good. Now, look, I'm saying it out. Every actor and actress in this film was good.
Mm-hmm.
No one phoned in a performance except for Robert Downey Jr. See, I'm getting mileage out of this Empire quote.
Uh-huh.
But I'm glad she's not the continued love interest.
Right.
Because I just didn't feel that huge amount of chemistry between them.
Do you know, there's one scene that I thought was fabulous between the two of them. It is just that moment where Peter just says to her, have you got anybody for this homecoming dance? And she, just the way she says, because it's a bit of a trope, obviously, but the way she says, actually, I've been too busy organizing this thing to even think about a date. You know, the way she's saying it is, I've been waiting for you to ask me, Peter, but doesn't say, I've been waiting for you to ask me, Peter. It's a lovely delivered line. I think there's a lovely moment between the two of them. You know, it is a trope. I'm sure it's been in every single teenage TV show that's ever been out there, but I loved it. I loved that little moment.
It was Dawson's Creek.
But
central.
It was that moment. It's more that it tells you why Peter's interested in her, and that's something that always is missed. It's missed a lot in these movies where there's an unattainable girl that the main character is looking for. It always seems to forget to tell you why he's interested in her, other than she's unattainable. Just that little moment, the way she kind of flicks her hair and says that, you kind of go, yeah, I can see why Peter's interested in this girl.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that scene actually, upon remembrance, I did love that because I have personal memories of attempting that as a child and asking girls out, and that fear and the stammering and the, oh my God, how do I actually say this in a sentence without stopping and starting? And it was beautiful, that scene.
Yeah,
I have to admit, I did love it.
Nice.
I did like her being on par with, in terms of intelligence, with Peter as well. That she isn't a genius as well. Mm-hmm. She's going to the same school. She was head of their academic decathlon. Am I right in saying that? Yes, academic decathlon team. I liked that. Okay, so I like the character. I liked what they did with this. I like the connective tissue. I'm like 80% in on that actress. We probably won't see her again. She did a great performance. It's just, I'm like, not 100%.
After what Spider-Man did to her father, we could see her back as a supervillain in the next Spider-Man movie.
Could she be the next Goblin? I mean, Goblin 2.0. I mean, New Goblin. I mean, yes.
She didn't seem too happy about being sent away to another city.
Yes.
At the end of this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I think as well, her role was to be kind of slightly in the background. It was an ordinary girl doing ordinary stuff. Now, clever, engaged in the high school, but she wasn't the pom-pom cheerleader or something like that was trying to and be the absolute queen bee of the school. She was in her own right, I think, and that's what Peter kind of honed in on to. And then, obviously the revelation, But yeah, I think that was kind of the role of her being. Within Peter's circle, she was the queen bee, but within the high school, no. So she had to play it, I think, quite steady in that sense. Sure. She didn't have the role of a Ned or a Flash Thompson, which were or even MJ with regards to the snarky teen. So immediately, relatively to all those other three that have got these sort of built-in lines or comments, she didn't have that, and the moment came where effectively he asked her out, and I think that was a really good scene.
But great connective tissue between the hero and the villain of this movie, definitely, and a nice little moment between the two of them. But only one last point really to talk about, which is the final battle. We've talked about some of the battles and some of the moments. Obviously, there's the big ferry scene, the Staten Island ferry scene, which was fantastic. Really loved that moment. A lot more in that scene than I was expecting, even from the trailers.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you on this. I thought it was your Act 2 standout kind of piece. It was the ramp up there. Again, it was an iconic kind of shot where he's fleeing through, trying his best to pull it all together. He misses. He nearly gets there. It was 99.5 or 95.9% structurally, and he missed one, and it all starts to fall apart again. Yeah. And then he gets that, as the trailer showed us, and every trailer spot had it, that iconic scene where he's straining against trying to keep it together.
We have our Jesus Christ pose again.
Yeah, no, this to me was straight out of Spider-Man 2 with the train. It was the train scene on water. And actually, the only thing that spoiled this for me were all of Tony Stark's tech coming in to the rescue. I wish it had just been kind of Tony, and that the Iron Man suit along with Spider-Man could have pushed it together, and then him doing his welding thing. That brilliant. But all the little bots coming out, I was like, oh.
Well, again, on purpose, it's saying here that Peter can't handle this level of challenge.
No, exactly.
So that's what it's saying.
I get that. And I loved everything that went after it, but it was just like, okay, deploy. It is.
No. The point is that Tony is saying to him, you can't handle this. This can't be me just coming in a suit and helping you out, Peter, for 10 seconds, and then we'll fix this problem. This is even too big for me as Tony Stark Iron Man to save this ferry from falling in half. I need all my tech. I need to do all this and redo it. Yeah. I think that's the whole.
But I loved the final battle. I loved what it led up to, absolutely, on the Staten Island one. But there was, corrected. But there was just that element of it that I was kind of like, and I think it just links in with the whole tech Spidey suit. And I thought, is this getting a bit too kind of Tony Stark?
Yeah. Iron Man with the spiders.
To the extent. But the final battle I loved, because he's there in his own outfit. I love, just again, and it just brings that complexity to the hero and the villain here, Spider-Man and Vulture, where, he goes to rescue him, and it sort of reflects back the fact that the Vulture had left him under the collapsed warehouse, with that iconic scene where Spider-Man goes back to save Adrian Toomes. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so I want to break this down very quickly, this final battle. So we had the first part, which was in the warehouse, and we had Spider-Man in his, I'm going to call it Ben Reilly, early, Scarlet Spider style duds with the hoodie. He had him confront Toomes, and you have this soliloquy delivered by Michael Keaton, kind of talking about, if you don't back off, I'm going to kill your family. I'm going to kill everyone you love. I'm going to take them and take everything you love away from you. And that build up where Peter is trying to kind of go, no way, blah, blah, I've got you dead to rights, yada, yada, yada. And I thought it was waiting for Shocker or more people, obviously not Shocker, sorry, but someone else to come in or something else to happen. And I thought that was the worst ending ever. And we get the Vulture wings coming in and
Brilliant.
destroying I thought it was a nice build up to the beginning.
Yeah, I really enjoyed actually. Just again, it's the youthful confidence of Spider-Man, where he's like, the wings didn't even touch me, and Adrian Toomes just turns around and goes, "I wasn't aiming for you," as all the columns collapse on him. Really, really good. Great start to this kind of final battle sequence. And then that image of the Vulture coming down on the Stark plane and his claws screeching across the top of the plane towards Batman, Jeebus, towards Spider-Man, I thought was really awesome.
Yeah. No.
Biggest Marvel faux pas ever.
It's okay. Since you guys do record a Gotham TV podcast, and since it is Michael Keaton, I'll let you away with it. There you go. A nice plug, by the way. Hey, see?
Thank you.
But yeah, I kind of agree. The taking this to the plane, I thought this was fantastic. We knew there was going to be a plane scene.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be just what we had seen in the trailers, which is him kind of pulling it and kind of arcing it away from the towers in Queens. Trying to kind of avoid the explosion. This part 2 of the battle was fantastic. We had Spider-Man in the air with just webs, without his parachute, without anything. This was Spider-Man trying to save the day. And
absolutely.
It was great, him trying to slowly beat his way in, not working, and then this literally swinging and punching of the Vulture in midair. I just loved it.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that kept crossing my mind throughout the final scene was how much easier it would have been if he had the tech suit that Tony had given him. I love that it was difficult. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of Spider-Man's life, of Peter Parker's life. It's always difficult. There's always a bit of an uphill struggle. So I like that he didn't get the suit back before his final battle. It's something that's delivered to him at the end of the film. For next time, you can use this. But I love that he's using his own wits. He's using his own way of doing things in this final battle. I thought it was the perfect way to play it. And as you say, the fact that he saves Adrian Toomes at the end of it, he could have let him get away. He could have let him let the explosion kill Adrian Toomes. He actually shouts after him, trying to save him, just like he does with everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little moment for Peter.
So yeah, that final part. So that's the Act 3 of the final battle was perfect. For me, that encapsulates what Spider-Man is, and again, Tom Holland gives a beautiful performance in that. No, you don't understand the radiation. It's goes in to save him when he's dying. Well, he's not dying. He's severely injured himself. And at the end, we see him save it. We see him webbing up at the crates. He picks all the crates up, puts them together in a nice pile. Webs Toomes there, and then you see him battered and bruised on top of the Queen's kind of state fair roller coaster ride. He's sitting there watching them happy and all them come in, and I thought it was brilliant. And again, it's the note saying your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It was just the perfect final ending. Absolutely. I don't know what more I would want. I can't. It was the perfect wrap to this kind of film. And I think that's the best way I can kind of leave our kind of discussion points on this. I think it was that dramatic ending was brilliant. So we've been discussing here, boys, for a while, the beautiful, amazing film that is Spider-Man Homecoming. But do we have any notes here that we haven't kind of put in yet so far?
I suppose usually we talk about our post-credit scenes. We did talk about the main post-credit scene while we were talking earlier on about Scorpion meeting up with Vulture at the end of the movie. But we also get our comedy post-credit scene.
Absolutely.
Something that traditionally, John, you've not been generally quite happy with.
No, but I loved it in this.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's this, we are made wait till the final post-credit scene, as Marvel always put out before their movies come out. A Marvel fan doesn't leave the cinema until after the credits. So we all sat there waiting for the post-credit scene, and our post-credit scene is the wonderful Steve Rogers, Captain America, public service announcement, that waiting is difficult, but patience is important, kids. And I loved it.
Yeah, really good.
What do you think, Chris?
I was a fan. I loved these PSA, the moments throughout kind of spattered throughout the film.
Absolutely.
Like the bit in the gym where the gym teacher's standing on the wrong side, and he kind of delivers I think he's a war criminal now. That was just, I was like,
Brilliant.
this is perfect. He's in his original Captain America Avengers film.
It's
uniform.
Avengers 1, yeah.
Yeah, so we can see that it's probably filmed around that time. So it just, it was this, and the ending, it was beautiful. It was great.
And obviously, after something as serious as Civil War, where, Captain America didn't really crack a smile in Civil War, it's kind of nice to see the fun Captain America back. I love this idea that he went from 1940s, where he was doing these kind of public service announcements around the world to get people to support the war effort. And now he gets into the future, and they make him do all of these public service announcements for the kids who are growing up in a tough society now. Kids, what's it again? Kids, I know all about being cool. I was frozen for 40 years. Brilliant moment for Steve. But he is
definitely
character, so,
really cool. We have Pepper Potts
yes,
as well.
We do.
Yes,
not in a post-credit scene, but she shows up to announce announce that Spider-Man is joining the Avengers, but then
once
presumably
again, totally lets her down.
Yeah.
And one thing I was confused about, are they going to announce their engagement?
No.
Because it seems like he was walking in going, "Oh, we're going to do this." I just thought it was quite funny.
No, it was hilarious, but Potts was effectively going, I can think of a million better things to announce than our spur of the moment engagement when you haven't even asked me to marry you, Tony, was basically what she said. I was really surprised to see Pepper Potts in here. It made total sense to have that character in there, because obviously this is kind of extending the family of the Starks by bringing in Spider-Man a little bit. So of course you're going to have Pepper Potts in there. It makes much more sense to have her here than have her following Tony round when he's on his adventures with the Avengers. Sorry. So I liked that they did include her in the scene. I think it was a cool choice. Yeah,
and I'm glad to have her back. I'm glad to have Gwyneth Paltrow back as Pepper Potts. It was, for me, happy.
There's also Thor's belt, meow meow.
Meow meow.
Magic Gorge. What I thought was interesting about this, yes, Thor's power belt is mentioned in a really funny way where Happy can't pronounce the name of it. It is difficult. Look it up. It is Megan Jord, something like that. Look it up. The only reason I wanted to reference it in our notes was because it actually is very important in Ragnarok, in the comic books, in the storyline about Ragnarok. Odin uses this power belt of Thor's to divert Ragnarok, to stop Ragnarok from happening. The next movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Thor Ragnarok. So I thought it was quite interesting. I just referenced the belt of Thor, knowing that some of us would look it up on Wikipedia. There you go. Yeah. Saved you a bit of Googling time.
Yeah. Now, this is one that, Derek, I think you're going to enjoy. We have our S.H.I.E.L.D. Howling Commandos Easter egg in this film. Okay, so we had Kenneth Choi was cast in this film as the principal. And I remember when the casting happened, a lot of people went, "Oh, but he's already been in the MCU. Mm-hmm. 40, 60 years ago. How's this going to work?" We all thought it was kind of the Woodard being cast in Luke Cage Civil War mishap again. But what we do find that he was reprising his role as Jim Morita from the first Avengers, or Captain America: The First Avenger, when he was the Howling Commando.
Yes, he was. Yes.
And then we find that in Spider-Man Homecoming, he plays none other than the same Morita, or Principal Morita, in this film. So, and in the second half, when Peter's in the office, we have a picture of his great-grandfather, his just grandfather, from Captain America: First Avenger on top of his desk.
Very cool.
Yeah, you have just been out-shielded.
I know. Well, out Howling Commandos.
Oh, out Howling Commandos.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very good, Chris. Thank you for that.
I know.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah,
I
really
certainly
cool.
did not see that picture, but next time I go and see the movie, I'll definitely be looking out for it.
Yes. Another one I want to just get off my chest is a nod to the best on-screen superhero kiss ever. I can't beat it. We obviously had where Karen is talking to Peter when he's hanging upside down. He goes, "Do Peter, kiss her now." And he's hanging upside down in front of Liz. Of course, the only thing I could think of, and the only thing that makes sense, is this is a beautiful reference to the MJ Spider-Man scene in Spider-Man 1.
Nice, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
It was brilliant.
We did have one of the character cameo, which we didn't mention earlier on, which I loved. The presenter of the kids TV show, the high school TV show that's going on throughout the movie, is Betty Brant. Betty Brant was in all three of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies as the receptionist in the Daily Bugle. So nice to see Betty Brant up on screen.
Absolutely.
As a terrible, terrible news reporter, along with her even worse guest host, who's terrible at delivering news as well. So, but I really enjoyed it. That's a nice little gag there.
To round it out, I want to do a possible Easter egg or just a nod, I'm not sure, and hopefully one of our fellow defenders who I've talked about within the group about this character and wanting to read up on her will hopefully have seen it too. We have the Asian American girl named as Cindy on Peter Parker's academic decathlon team, and we didn't see much of her throughout this film. It was played by Tiffany Espezenza, I think. I'm not 100% on the name. But she plays none other than Cindy Moon in this, because we do see in the credits she's named as Cindy Moon. Right. For our comic book fans, this is the Marvel hero known as Silk, who was recently introduced into the Spider-Man world, who she has the same powers as Spider-Man. She was bit by the same spider as Peter Parker. That gave him the same one that gave him powers, and she was then put into a bunker for 10, 15 years by Ezekiel, which I'm not going to get way into the lore here.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm hoping I don't think we'll see her similar to Howard the Duck and Cosmo. It's obscure reference. Character is not as popular as some of the bigger characters, but hey, they did it with Deadpool, they did it with Guardians of the Galaxy, you never know. But there you go, Silk was in this.
I think if there's one thing that Kevin Feige and Marvel have brought to Sony on a silver platter is options. That's one of the big things they seem to have given them in this film is, and in nice ways, not too much in your face. They could pretty much go wherever they want to with this Spider-Man universe in the future for Sony. It does feel like the Marvel guys came in and went, right, this is how you set up a universe. You've been trying to do it for decades. Here you go. This is how you do it. You do a central film that's good, and then you have a couple of little nods that allow you to follow off in those directions in future if you want to. So it's entirely possible that Silk could be a character that becomes a very big character in future.
Yeah, you never know. So, boys, we are at the end of our homecoming wrap up. So we're almost like at the end coming of the end.
It's the home run.
The home run. We've come to the home run.
Nice.
So the only thing left is to ask is whether each of us defend this movie. So I'm going to kick it off. John, do you defend Spider-Man Homecoming?
It's always me to go first.
Blame whoever wrote the notes. Yes, it's in there in the notes.
I forget to change it. I'm sorry. I always want you to go last on the Spider-Man reviews, and I forget to change it every week.
I absolutely defend Spider-Man Homecoming. I would give this a top 4.5 egg-laying Spider-Man out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. For me, I think Tom Holland really knocks it out of the park playing Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And I think to that you have, Michael Keaton here as Vulture. I thought really good how that all came together around Liz and around the homecoming event. Really cool. I loved the kind of the focus down on, Spider-Man's issue of being a high school student and also then wanting to be part of the Avengers, and just how that arc develops over the course of the movie so that he ends up really opting for being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man rather than going to the Avengers Academy. loads of great supporting characters in here as well. Absolutely adored Ned. Great character. Loved him. My rating is homage to Ned. And I think Flash, Donald Glover there as Aaron Davis as well. Absolutely loved it. Loved the final battle. There's so much I really loved. And I think this really shows, with many characters come many responsibilities. And I think this was knocked out of the park. At the end of the day, there's a lot of villains there. Yes, they're supporting. A lot of villains. Shocker 1, Shocker 2, Scorpion, Vulture, the Tinkerer, plus all the students in high school, plus Tony Stark, plus Happy Hogan, So, you can have a lot of characters in a movie, and if it's done well, it works as an ensemble cast without dimming the lights of Tom Holland as Spider-Man or Michael Keaton as Vulture. I really absolutely loved this movie for what it did. Not on the nose, loads of Easter eggs, and a great storyline set in a way that I think feels right for this sort of reboot of Spider-Man, really, which is in high school. So I can't wait to see Jamie Bell come back as Spider-Man. Sorry, I mean Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I still think he looks like Jamie Bell. I can't wait for him to come back, see what he does next, both in the Marvel Sonyverse and also in the MCU in terms of the Infinity Wars. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I'm going to get a Doc Strange in here because I would love to see him team up with Doc Strange as well. I absolutely adore those cartoons of those two together because I do love the, slightly older mannerisms of Strange with the youthful exuberance of Spider-Man. I think that's another great little pairing.
Yeah, very cool. You referenced Jamie Bell is obviously because Tom Holland started his career out in Billy Elliot, right?
And he did. He certainly did on the boards, dancing away as Billy Elliot.
Yeah, very cool.
In the West End.
So, on that note, Derek, do you defend Spider-Man Homecoming?
How far have we come from Spider-Man 3?
I know.
The way we're recording this, we're one night after the other here, and we all rounded on Spider-Man 3, pretty much the death knell in the coffin of the Spider-Man franchise. It was resurrected with a trailer for Amazing Spider-Man and another trailer for Amazing Spider-Man 2 that got us really hyped for what those films could deliver. This film came along and we will talk about those films in the future, but this film came along, had a trailer that hyped us for it, a cameo appearance of the character in Civil War that hyped us for it. I didn't want to be hyped for this movie. I didn't want to overhype myself. I didn't want to oversell myself, hoping that this would be the Spider-Man movie that finally got rid of those previous three that I didn't particularly like. It totally did everything I wanted for this character. It was absolutely brilliant. Really, really enjoyed it. Highly defend it. I'll be back watching this again very soon in the cinema. It's worthy of my time and worthy of my money to spend it again and watch it a number of more times. It was really enjoyable. Loved what they did. Loved the nods. Loved how grounded it was within the MCU without bashing you over the head with, don't worry, this is the MCU. This is the MCU. It was very much, he has his own cast of characters and it's also set in the universe. Very similar to what we cover on a week-to-week basis on our Defenders podcasts, where they feel like members of the MCU, but they are still telling their own story. So this felt like the right kind of impulse for the character. So I highly defend this movie. This is one of the tops for me.
And so, Chris, do you defend Spider-Man Homecoming?
I don't. What am I saying? Okay, guys. I said this briefly before we started recording. This, for me, is the best edition, version, film, everything of Spider-Man. They have hit the nail on the head in so much, adding the John Hughes elements, adding the nods to kind of nods to other films, nods to the cinematic universe, adding so much of this. It just is perfect. Like I would give this a perfect 5 out of 5 if I could, 4.9 if you will. Like there's so much I want to do with this, but I can't. There are niggly little things. Like I said, just potentially Liz Allen's performance for me. Just I wasn't the target audience.
Yeah,
I was just. I put maybe if she was cast as MJ, or cast as Gwen, if it was Gwen Stacy, maybe it would have just because the Liz Allen character never really had an affinity to me for the animated show or anything like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. Just, but that's it. I tried to find elements I didn't like. There's nothing for me, and I know I'm hugely biased. But Derek, I'm in the same boat as you. The best nod of appreciation I can give to a writer, director, a film is to go see it again in the cinema. Like to spend my money and go and see it a second time, a third time. I will go see this a second time and a third time if I can.
Yeah,
definitely a second time. I will buy this on Blu-ray the day it comes out. I have stopped buying a lot of Blu-rays unless it's something I know that I want to rewatch once every year or 2 years. I want to see in 4K. I want to just sit there and feel this universe wrap around me. And this will be it. Like, I go back to a lot of the MCU films once every couple of years, but this will be one I know that I will see before Infinity War. I'll rewatch this. Right. Before Infinity Part 2, I'll watch this. Before Homecoming 2, I'll rewatch this. That's how I have to kind of be, because this delivery of Peter Parker by Tom Holland, like that scene from like Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 33, like the Ditko one, that has always been one of my iconic memories of Spider-Man and reading Spider-Man, and it was brought to life beautifully.
Absolutely.
By Tom Holland. And he is Spider-Man to me. He is the perfect teenager that it was Spider-Man that got me interested in this character.
Yeah.
And he's even as the amount of training this man went through. Like there are videos online of him consistently learning to jump and spin and kick and everything. And Jon Bernthal, the Punisher from Netflix, like him working with him on another film and then trying to get him in the Spider-Man, vice versa for Punisher, and like two of them sparring with each other. The quips he makes in real life is just, he is the embodiment of a nerdy Peter Parker. We just don't know. I don't know if he's a genius. That's the only thing I could have against Tom Holland. Are you a genius?
He's not at all. He said he's not a smart man.
Okay, well then he can play a smart man very well. Yes. The cast of characters, the villain, like again, this is one of my top villains now in the MCU. This is actually my top villain in the MCU, and it is the best Spider-Man film to date, in my opinion. And I will go on record as saying I loved Iron Man 1. I've named my top 3 in previous podcasts as Iron Man 1, Doc Strange nudged in there, and then we had Civil War. One of them is going to have to drop out. I don't know which one, but Spider-Man is in that top 3, almost top spot for me, because of my affinity to the character and my love, but also the delivery and the photography and the character development and everything that we saw in this. This is next year. If we can get this for every solo character going forward, I like if Black Panther is as good as this, I'm gonna be happy. If if they do what they did to Spider-Man with Captain Marvel in 2019, I can't remember the release date for Captain Marvel. That I'm done. This is perfect. They figured out the formula. It took a few films, but they figured out the formula. It's perfect, and I can't more. If you have not seen this film, well, why are you listening to this point of the podcast? But if you have seen the film, obviously, go see it again. Try and watch it again. Like, the only way we will get more of this, which obviously I know they've already announced Spider-Man 2, but like the way we can give, and 3, the way we can give this our kudos is to see it again and see it again and buy the DVDs. Don't worry about the merch. The merch is just merch. But just definitely buying the film itself.
All the merch money goes to Sony. Yeah, it's just the taking in the box office and the Blu-ray that's split between Marvel and Sony.
And that's what I want.
But yeah, I'm delighted that we're going to have at least two more appearances of the character from here, Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU. That's in Infinity War and Infinity War 2, whatever Infinity War 2 is actually going to be called, and another two Spider-Man Homecoming sequels as well coming out. So the total deal with Sony and Marvel was 6 movies and then to be renegotiated in 2022.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of this character of Tom Holland to come, and I'm delighted to know that this was exceptional in what they did, what they achieved with a character that has pervaded society so much that they can still use a theme tune written in 1967, I think it was.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man theme tune.
Yeah,
they can
absolutely.
still use that at the opening of this movie that's aimed at people who are in their teens, people who weren't around in the 90s, and weren't around in the 2000s even. Some of the kids that this is aimed at, they could still use that theme tune at the opening. It's such an iconic character, and they could do something brand new and fresh for his fifth outing in the cinema. Is that right? 6th outing in the cinema? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very happy with it.
Well, 7th if you count Civil War.
That's true. That's true, yes.
Okay. So on that note, gentlemen, I want to close out this podcast in the way that we always close out our podcast, with your feedback. We want to hear from you, be it on your docile tones, as John said at the beginning, by going over to DefendersTVPodcast.com and leaving us an audio voicemail so we can actually insert your voice directly into this podcast. Or, of course, you can email us at feedback@DefendersTVPodcast.com, or, as some of you have already done, is going to facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast, joining the group and leaving your feedback there. We will always ask for it before or as recording, so you can get your feedback in. David Wang, I'm going to kick in with the first part here, guys. David Wang, one of our fellow Defenders over at the Facebook group, started going, I want to squeeze in a bit of listener feedback if you haven't started recording the Homecoming episode yet. David, we hadn't. So you got it in time. He goes on to say, I know you folks have been mostly positive on all the MCU films, but you got to admit, most of the villains have been taking backseats in the plot and emotional weights of the film. They can range from thin to two-dimensional. The Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming, however, is like a breath of fresh air to me. His character is very, very rounded and his plan down to earth. And almost to showcase that in a very visible manner, remember how in the past the actor's name of the villains, from Tom Hiddleston to Mads Mikkelsen, has been relegated to the back of the credits in the with and part, while big characters like the female love interests get pushed much closer to the front and the leading man. This time I was very happy to see Michael Keaton's name come right after Tom Holland's.
Interesting.
Very interesting, and completely agree with you, David. I think, as we discussed on the podcast, Michael Keaton here is great in this role. A great counterpoint to Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Absolutely. And I think you're right. Yeah. To see the villain coming in right after the hero in the credits, it is really interesting, and that's an interesting point that you make, and I've observed. It's not something I've spotted before, so it's really cool.
It's really interesting. I think the guys who've had this happen to them before may need to talk to their representation, their management about this, because the and with those credits at the end are huge credits, because it actually means the very special guest star if you have the and with. So that was actually reserved in this film for Robert Downey Jr. So he got the and credit at the end. I believe he was the last name that we see is and Robert Downey Jr. So it's this entire movie wasn't possible without Robert Downey Jr. is kind of what it's saying. So, but it is, you're absolutely right. It is usually the main character and the love interest are the first two people, and then you have your and is usually the villain at the end of the film. So that's quite interesting point to see that Michael Keaton's taken that position up at the start. It's quite cool though.
Yeah. Thank you very much,
Upfront.
David.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks so much for that feedback, David. Really good to hear from you, as always.
Thank you, David, for the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, gentlemen, we are at the full end of our podcast. The mammoth review of Spider-Man Homecoming, his homecoming to MCU, if you will. Of course, listeners, fellow Defenders and fellow webheads, please subscribe to us at defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes or on any good or evil or web swinging podcast catcher that you can. Please leave reviews, rate us, share if you know people who want to listen to this beautiful deep dive into the MC universe. Please tell your friends. Of course, join us on Facebook and check us out on Twitter, etc. We'll be back for Amazing Spider-Man movies, the Garfield era, if we will, this Garfield verse, as we continue our Summer of Spidey retrospective. But of course, that will all lead to The Defenders on August 18th. And of course, we want you to be with us on the day and date it launches, because
Absolutely.
we will be releasing our views on that show because, well, basically that's what we are here for, because we are the Defenders TV podcast. So I've been one of your hosts, Chris. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Absolutely. I'm off to lay some eggs whilst eating some lasagna. Thank you so much for joining us as always, and we'll speak with you next time.
John, you forgot your army of spiders.
My army of spiders, they're in the taxi on the way.
Good.
Absolutely.
Bye.
All right.
See you now. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us as always, and we'll speak with you next time.
John, you forgot your army of spiders.
Oh, yes.
Ta-ta for now, gentlemen. Ta-ta
They're
for
coming
now.
out of my wound.
What the hell?
They're like bursting out, it's the lay eggs under the skin. Anyway, I won't say that. No, they're in the taxi. They're in the taxi on their way.
Say that again.
Oh, sorry. My spider of armies. God.